D, wait for it, delightful.
Check out the name tag. You're in my world now, Grandma.
What's up, nerds? So I watched, so they dropped The Last of Us episode 5 last night. And man, what a good episode. And I'll talk about that a little bit more when I get into the breakdown and all that good stuff. But they dropped this episode early because of the Super Bowl, which a small piece of me is grateful that they did, but then I'm also like, man, because I was watched it as soon as I got home from work because it dropped while I was at work. And then all I was getting was like tweets up the wazoo that I was like, oh, so good, it was fire and everything. And I was like, oh, I'm so jealous and everything. But got home, watched it. This episode was good. I Like I said before in my other videos, I hadn't played the game before, so I didn't know, for instance, in this case, Sam and Henry. Good characters. I really liked them. They're no longer going to be around, so it doesn't matter. Which is it was something also that one thing I don't like about this show is it gives us these characters that I'm all like, I would like to have seen those characters like Bill and Frank. I was like, I would like to have seen those characters again, and we're not. I was like, oh, okay, well then why are you making me like them? Like, why are you making me like these characters? Because now I'm sad. But yeah, no, this was a good episode. I liked it mostly because it brought on the clackers. Okay. And we got what are they called? The bomber. No, not the bomber. Oh, I'm so bad with these things. Okay, anyways, and I did look some up and I did look up some scenes from the game because I was like, oh, I wonder how it happened in the game. But yeah, and then one thing I also want to mention before I get started on this breakdown that man, you guys, Pedro Pascal and this Bella, what's her name? Bella Thorne, Bella Ramsey. I don't know. Anyways, they're doing a good job acting wise. I mean, everybody's doing a pretty good job acting wise, except for the main villain in here. What was her name? It was like Karen or something. I don't remember. But everybody's doing a good job acting. Like Pedro Pascal, like I know that he dies in the second game, Joel does. And if they do that, like, why would I watch this show? Like, I'm just like, man, I keep thinking about that. And I'm all like, I don't want to watch this show without Pedro Pascal in it. That's crazy. That's crazy about it. So I'm going to get started on this breakdown now. It's easier for me because then I can remember stuff and everything. But I just want to say before I get started that if you like what I do here and you enjoy independent content here on YouTube, please consider subscribing to my channel. YouTube is always changing up their algorithm, and small channels like mine, we just keep getting pushed to the back of the line. So I please ask that you like, share, and subscribe. And I thank you in advance, you guys. Plus, do this for any small YouTuber out there. They will appreciate it. It costs you nothing. Even if you don't like watch their videos still, I mean, just hit the subscribe button at minimum. It would help everybody out just a little bit. All right. So I got that out of the way. Let's get started on this breakdown. So it starts off. Now, I didn't realize how short of a time this span was, but everybody's celebrating because this is where Kansas City has overthrown the I don't think they're the Fireflies, but they've overthrown Fedra in Kansas City. And you see them like torturing these soldiers and killing them, and this guy they hang up and everything, and they're like higher and everything. And at first I was all like, oh, this is horrible. This is horrible. And then we get right over here, we get what are their names? Shoot, Henry and Sam. I need to remember their names. And they're hiding out because Henry did something bad. And I had been wondering what Henry did bad, because I did look it up a little bit. This did not happen in the game from what I understand. They didn't for Frank, or gosh, Henry didn't do what he had done in this show in the game. Okay, so then they're dragging this guy behind when they stabbed him to death. And also, I didn't dislike this, but Sam is deaf. So they are doing sign language, which I personally don't mind reading. It's just it was unexpected. So I'm just like, oh, okay, we're reading now. We're reading now. So they're going through the city and trying to hide. And stay with me. And so because they're going to get out and they're going to go to that doctor guy. Now, these people are all sitting in this little pen, right? They're like in jail kind of thing. And in comes, what is her name? I don't remember her name, but Karen comes in and she sits down with all these people. And she's like, you're collaborators. She's like, these people are collaborators. And she's like, you gave them information for, gasoline, food, heat, apples. She mentions apples. She's like, because they're rats, she says. Or no, maybe she doesn't. Yeah, she says they're rats. She's like, one of you, she's like, where's Henry? One of you knows. And she's like, I want to know where Henry is. And then as she's leaving, she's like, where, well, let's just get you got one of you knows, you guys know this information or whatnot. She's like, this is what's going to happen. And she's like, because she's like, is it worth it? She's like, you are going to, you're going to go on trial. She's like, let's get this out of the way. You're going to go on trial. You're all guilty. There's no question about that. And then you're going to be put in jail. And that's it. Okay. And so, and long story short, nobody's talking. She's like, you don't know. So she's like, so she goes to leave and she's like, kill them. And this guy's like, wait, he's a da-da-da. So she tells him that the doctor is like an informant or whatnot. And she's like, the doctor? I don't remember his name. Do not ask me to remember. And she's like, well, he was a lot more, what's the opposite of conspicuous? Is conspicuous the right word? Shoot, I'm sorry, you guys. It's early for me. I'm recording this, but I cannot think right now. What's that from any other day? Okay. So she's like, well, he hit it well. I'm a lot better than you guys. And so long story short, he's like, that's all I know. And she's like, I know that is all you know. So he comes in here and she's all like, we need to get some men and go look for the doctor. And he's like, do we really need to do that now? And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to wait an hour? Give him an hour, maybe two, maybe we should just wait a month. She's like, this is not priority number 7 for me. This is priority number 1. Is this priority number 7 for you? And he's like, no. And me, I go, listen, Karen, calm down. Okay. You'll find him. But, she's all like, I want him now. And I'm all like, okay. So, and then he's like, what do you want to do with them? And she's like, just make sure you burn the bodies after you're done. So they go in and you hear him screaming and they kill those people. And I was like, and you know what gets me about all of this? Like, listen, I get that those people were bad people and everything, but it's the end times. I mean, like, don't you think you should try to be preserving mankind and humanity instead of just getting rid of it willy-nilly? I'm like, this is crazy bones, but maybe I'm just a different person. And they talk about their so these guys, they find this place and they go upstairs and the doctor's there and he finds this little thing and he's like, a federal soldier told me this place that he didn't tell anybody else about in case stuff went south. And they only got enough food for 11 days. And then he's all like, he's scared because you're scared. And then he goes over there and he's like, do I look scared? And he's all like, I don't know, kind of thing. So then no, it's totally my fault. It's totally my fault. It's my fault. So I'm saying a lot. I need to stop that, but you are who you are. So he's like, you're Super Sam. He's like, you know what? This place is ugly. We need to make it pretty. So he pulls out some crayons and they start coloring. And I'm all like, that's good. And he drives all he's Super Sam. He's like a superhero. I like that. So he's checking stuff out and the soldiers are going around the city and they're trying to find him. They have 1 can of food left. And he's like, can we open it? And he's like, later. He's like, I'm hungry. And he's like, later. And he's like, is the doctor coming back? And he's like, probably not. And he's like, is he dead? He's like, probably. Oh, and then I think no, it's not at this point. Oh no, this is the part where he's like, he's not coming back. And he's like, I'm sorry, he's probably dead and everything. And he's all like, we need to get out of here because we need to find food and stuff. And I'm all like, man, hard times. So he's like, close your eyes, but not too tight. And then he paints on his thing. And I just want to, like, a small piece would be like, I understand what he was doing, but I just want to be all like, that's not safe for your eyes. Even if it's just like a little bit. You can't be having paint around your eyes. And so they get ready to go. But as they're doing this is where they see Joel and Ellie having their little firefight at the beginning of the last episode. So he's like, we need to go another way. So then they go up to this building, right, where Ellie and them are sleeping. And he's like, you know what to do. And he gives him the gun, which I'm like, oh, I get what they're doing, but it's so irresponsible. So they wake them up and he's like, listen, he's like, I'm going to lower my gun and we're going to be cool. Right. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, why do you say it like that? And she's like, no, he just has an a-hole voice. And he's all like, so they're basically like, listen, they're like, he's like, I'm the most wanted man in all of Kansas City. And I'm guessing you're a close number 2. So they eat and he's like, thank you for the food. He's like, you guys probably don't have that much. So thank you for sharing what you do have. And she's all like, yeah, we got it from Frank. He's dead. I'm like, man. So he's like, I'm gonna get you guys, like, I know a way to get out of here. You're gonna help me get out of here. And he's like, and he tells him, he's like, welcome to Death City or whatnot. And he tells him, Fedra drew knocked all of the clackers, the infected, down underground. And that plays into the sinkhole later on that we saw in the last episode. Now, I was kind of right, but I mean, like, not like it was hard to guess, but there are zombies underneath those sinkholes. Way more than I thought, I'll tell you that. So he's like, I don't work with rats. And he's all like, you're going to work with me because I'm the only way you're going to get out of here. And the kids are laughing. He's like, I haven't heard that in a long time because his brother's laughing. And I was like, that's nice and everything. So he's like, he shows them how to get out, like, because the place is surrounded, but there's like some tunnels here. So he's like, we're gonna get out through the tunnels. And he's like, they drew them all underground, but these tunnels are clear. And he's like, how do you know that? And he's like, a soldier told me. He's like, when did they clear them out? He's like 3 years ago. And I'm like, 3 years is so, and Joel does the same thing. It's like 3 years is so long. Like, clackers could have totally invaded that tunnel. You're insane. But me watching it, I'm like, yeah, bring on the clackers. And so they're gonna do this thing. I'm trying to figure out. I can't remember what they said here. Some really good things were said. But like later on when they get into, so they go through this building, which was kind of nice. I liked seeing like when we saw that one where the restaurant was overgrown and like it still looked like it was all set up. And then like same thing with this, like it's just like it looks like this was just a regular building and then the world ended. I like that. I like seeing that kind of stuff. And so then these guys are going through this tunnel and they going through, and the whole time I'm like, oh, when's the clackers going to show up? And they don't show up. So then they get to this painted wall and then they go into this little area and they talk about how this was like where people would hang out. They'd like, try to live underground and everything until they couldn't after the whole thing happened. And this looks like a pretty good little bunker kind of thing. It's a bummer that I'm pretty sure whoever lived here is no longer with us in this game, not in real life. Okay. Make sure doors are locked. Ask for a password if you don't know the visitor. No shouting or noisy play. Run to hiding spot when you hear something. Okay, that's good. And they start playing Our Protectors. I wonder what happened to them. Does it say Booty and Ish? So they find this comic book and they're like, she's like, oh yeah, I got this one. And she's like, I have 5, 6, and 11. He's like, I have 5, 6, and 8. Oh, 4, 5, 6, and 11. But yeah, so they're like, they're like, survive and endure. And I was like, oh, that's good because they're surviving and they're trying to endure. And I was like, that's kind of a good motto, I guess. I don't know, man. So then they're like, can we just hang out there's so much to do here. Can we just hang out for a hot minute? And so they hang out. These two are playing soccer. And here they talk about one thing they talk about that I really liked in this was they don't talk about it right. They talk about like how the difference between being an adult and being a child is when you have someone that depends on you, you're an adult because that person is usually a child and they're depending on you. And so Henry is, even though he's probably a young person, is now an adult, and because he has his little brother depending on him. Like, I'm an adult. I mean, by law, you're an adult at like 18, but like, when you have somebody dependent on you, even when you're not 18, then you turn into an adult real freaking quick. And then he also tells him what happened, that he got this status. And he talks about how there was a man, a great man. I think his name was Michael, but I'm really bad with the names, so I don't remember. So Michael was the leader of the resistance, and Sam got leukemia, and there was only one drug that could cure it, and Fedra had it, and there wasn't that much of it. So if he wanted this drug, he was going to have to give him something big. And what was bigger than the leader of the resistance? I don't think they called themselves the Fireflies. So he gave him up and got the drug, and now he is going to now he's being hunted. Which I don't blame him. If my kids, like if that was my kids, I would probably do the same thing. But at the same time, I would try to get, because those guards in Boston, which from what we understand from the Kansas City people is they were graping and murdering people for 20 years and stealing from people and just being dicks the whole time to these people in Kansas City. So they're looking for him. And this is her and her brother Michael's old room. And this guy comes in and he's like, how did you know I was here? And he's like, I asked your mom. And she's like, why are you talking to my mom? And he's like, because we couldn't find you and we need to find you. And she's like, when we were little, this room seemed so huge because I was scared of thunderstorms. And Michael said, just think of this as a huge box that nothing can get in, or something like that. And she's like, we have to find Henry. And they talk about how like he was like a really good, like he was a very inspirational person. And it sounds like Karen gets like Karen's the hand and he's the mouth. Like she gets the stuff done and he, says nice things that people can rally behind. Which I mean, I don't know. Karen's like very like, is her name Karen? I don't remember. Kelsey. Karen. I'm just gonna call her Karen. But yeah. So then she's like, we have to find him. So they finally, so they're going to get out in these suburbs, right? So they're in these suburbs and they're walking. I just want to say right now, they're walking in the middle of the street, like willy-nilly. Like they're just all like Henry was all like, hey, there's no, clackers. But I'm all like, but still hide. Like, I don't understand this process of just walking out in the middle of the street. I would pretend like this was the city and there were soldiers all around and I needed to get through this place. And they're being very loud. Like I was all like, you guys are just talking like everything's okay. Like, I do not understand this thought process, except, I mean, I get it for the show. But like, sometimes I'd like to be like, hey, can you pretend it's real life for just a hot second? So then they're walking and there's a sniper and he's up on this little tower thing. Hold on. I don't know if I can get a good shot of. Okay. So anyway, so they're trying to stay down or whatnot. And he's all like, you stay here. I'm going to go and I'm going to take out this like sniper guy, right? Who has terrible aim, by the way. I'm all like, wouldn't you try to get your best shot to be the sniper? Because your best shot wouldn't have missed the first time. Because Joel's a pretty good shot. We'll find out in a minute. So he runs, he's running. And, and he sees the bridge. Because this is the bridge that he's like, if we get over that bridge, we're scot-free. And it's like right there kind of thing. And so he gets up into this house and he pulls the gun on the dude and he's all like, and it's this old man. He's like, he's like, put the gun down. Do not make me kill you. Just don't make me do it, dude. Don't make me do it. And the old man makes the bad decision and he kills him. But he's already called Karen and her posse and they're coming. And I liked this when she's all like, there's a bunch of cars and she's like, that's why you're in front, move them. And they just start plowing into all these cars, right? And these guys are running and everything. And his gun jams, but he finally gets it to work and he shoots the driver. And then this big truck runs into this house and then it starts on fire and explodes, right? And so they're walking and she's like, come out. All right, Henry, come on out. And he's like, I'll come out. He's like, but you have to let the kids go. And she's like, no, I don't think so. And she's all like, I know why you did it. I get it. But, and he's all like, I couldn't let my brother die. And she's like, and then she goes, kids die every day. It happens. And she's like, and maybe your brother was meant to die. And you're just messing around with destiny. And I'm all like, first off, I'm like, a non-childless person, a barren woman like this would say something horrible like that. Children are a blessing and they are the most defenseless on the planet, them and old people, and we need to protect them at all costs, no matter what. So for her to be like, oh, it's just a child dying just willy-nilly, like, not my problem kind of thing, like, what an asshole. And second, maybe it was destiny for your brother to die, honey. Let's change your words around, okay? Maybe it was Michael's turn, okay? If destiny is playing its part, okay? So maybe you should look in a mirror, all right? You jerk. She gets her comeuppance, don't worry. God got her. So he comes out, and when he comes out, right, hold on. This is where she's giving her a little speech, and he's like, when I go out, you need to, as soon as you can, you need to run. So he comes out, and as he's doing this, right, this truck just sinks into the ground, right? And everybody's just standing there, right? And it sinks. Now, as soon as it sinks, you hear this like, right? And it goes like so far into the ground, it looks like, because like the whole truck is swallowed up. So that's like what? Like 20 feet of truck and everything. So me personally, as soon as this happened, I would have bounced. I'd have been like, you guys, we need to get out of here like ASAP, like right now, like ASAP. Rocky. And so they just stand here. Hold on, I want to show this. And while they're standing here, right? And like they're standing here, they're all freaking out. And me personally, I'm like, run. Why are we staying here? Why are we staying? At least get to high ground or cover or whatnot. But no. So then they just bust out. They look at that horde. It's just so crazy. They are so fast, and they are just, look at them. And there is so many of them, and they're just firing, which I mean is good, but like there's so many of them, and they're just boom, 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 boom. I hope I don't get in trouble for this one, but there's just so many of them, right? And I'm playing this because there's action, and you can't get action in sequence in stills and everything. And this woman tries to come up on this thing, and Joel, and this is really good writing because Joel is perfectly situated where he can protect Ellie from a distance. And this guy's like, run him over. So they run him over with the cars and everything. Okay, and Ellie jumps into this car, right? And they make me itch. And they're chewing on this guy, right? And I think he ends himself. And so then out comes, oh, wait, did we miss that? No. Okay, so out comes the bloater. Hold on, let me play the bloater. So out comes the bloater. Now I look these guys up and look at him. He's all like, oh, crap, that's a big one. Now, ew, oh, man, itchy. Okay, so bloaters, they take a good chunk of time. I think it said it takes a couple years to become a bloater. And I did look up some gameplay stuff. Now, bloaters in the game, they tear off these little almost like spore grenades, but since they're not doing the spores situation, I'm assuming that the bloaters in this show do not tear off pieces of their skin and throw it. But they're very strong, and we will see that later. Because this guy's picking them up and he's just throwing them down. And then this guy gets his wrath upon him because he shoots him, and he's all like, the bloater's just like, you shooting at me? And you can almost see like eyes. I don't like this thing right here. Oh my gosh, it is making me itch so hardcore. So he's like, you need to get out of here. You need to run. And he's just shooting at the thing, and it grabs him. And it tears his head right off. And that's also indicative of the game. Like, look at that. His head is just clear off. That is also indicative of the game because the gameplay that I saw, it's where you're playing and the bloater gets you in the game as your Joel. And it grabbed his jaw. And like, I was like, oh, that's crazy. But so good, right? And so while she's sitting here, okay, I'm going to play this. This little kid pops its head in. And as soon as it did this, I was like, oh. I was like, oh. Right. And she's all like, and Joel can't get it. Oh, that's making me itch. But this is like a little kid. I would say like 5 or 6. And it starts like tumbling around in the car. Like, look at that. I was like, oh, that's very good. That's very good. In terms of like movement. And so she gets out, but he's still protecting her, and she's going to pretend. And Henry and Sam are underneath this car. Hold on. Oh, can't get it. They're underneath the car and she's going to try to save them. So they're kicking zombies off. Oh, that's so gross. And she stabs them, right? And there's still the guys in the background. They're still all, trying to run them over and everything. And they're trying to win. I don't know if they're going to or not. If they do, I don't know. I don't think this is part of the game because this character right here of Karen is not in the game. So she's all like, stop right there, mister. And then you see right here in the background, that same little girl, she pops up and just attacks and everything. Okay, now here's the thing. This little girl right here with her agility and everything, I think she's what's called a stalker. And they are, hold on, from what I remember, they have a higher intelligence than just the newer ones or whatever, and they will stalk you. And it said the gameplay that I said, it was some guy explaining it. He's like, if you got a stalker on your tail, the best thing to do is get into a corner and wait them out because they will ambush you. They'll jump out from like the best place for them to attack. And I'm like, oh, that's good. I was like, I hope we see more of these stalker ones because I personally would like to see more of the infected and like the way that they're this hierarchy of infected goes. You know what I'm saying? So this little kid, which how ironic is it that she's all like, little kids die every day and she's being killed by a dead kid. Well, kind of dead kid. Dead on the inside, which we'll talk about later. So it attacks her and it's just beating the crap out of her and it bites her. And then here you get like an overview of these guys. I don't know if these people are in the car still. I'm just going to assume that they are, but if they're winning, then they're just because there's still zombies coming out of the hole. They're just still coming out of that hole. Yeah. So they're in this hotel and they're just sitting here talking. And maybe this is the part where they talk about how being an adult is when you have somebody depending on you. And so I want to go over to these two. So they're sitting here talking and she's trying to read to them and she's all like, endure and survive. And he basically asks her, are you scared? Are you ever scared? And she's all like, do I look scared? And he's like, no. And she's like, I'm scared all the time of scorpions. And he's all like, huh? And then she writes down an honest answer. And hold on, let me just real quick. She writes down an honest and she's like, I'm scared of ending up alone. And I was like, that's even for right now, like everything's fine. That's still a legit thing to be scared of. Being alone sucks, and the thing about this show is she's, as we know right now, the only one that's immune to this. So there's a possibility that this thing could kill everybody on the planet except for Ellie. And Ellie will be by herself. And I'm like, man, that's crazy. But I just want to say, if she finds I know she's a lesbian, but if she finds a man and gets pregnant, her immunities will pass on to her child. That's like, biology and stuff. So if she gets pregnant, she can, continue the human species. She just has to keep creating babies. Or they just have to try to replicate this whole being immune thing, which I don't know how they're going to do that, but whatever. I don't know. I don't know everything about it. So what about you? And then he writes down, hold on. He says, oops. He says, if you turn into a monster, is it still you inside? And I was like, what a child answer. Like, and what a legit answer. Are these people that have been taken over by the fungus, is there any of them left on the inside? Any of them? I say no, but how do we know? How do we know? And then he reveals that he's been bitten. Hold on, let me show you. Okay, so he reveals that he's been, sorry, I was going to get a close-up of it. And she's all like, so she shows him hers. She's like, I'm infected too, but my blood is like medicine. So then she takes out her knife and she cuts her hand and then she rubs it on the bite mark. Like that will be okay. And I'm all like, man. And it really just shows how Ellie is so like still a child herself because she doesn't realize that that's not how it works. That's not how science works. That's not how biology works. You can't just rub your blood on his wound and everything's a-okay because you're immune, you know? Just because I got the polio vaccination doesn't mean my kids won't have to get the polio vaccination, right? So it's like, it's very like, it's crazy. So he's all like, so he writes down, stay awake with me. And she's all like, promise. And this is the last moment that he gets to be himself before he turns. And I really hate Ellie for what she does here. So she says, I promise. And then she falls asleep. And I'm all like, you bitch. He is a little kid, 8, and all he did was ask you for his last favor, and you couldn't even follow through with that. Like, what is your problem? And it's a little selfish in my opinion. And so she's all like, hey, you doing all right? And she goes to grab him, and he's all like, and everything, and he attacks her. So they go in here, and this is, I did look up the gameplay for this, and this is what it's like in the game, kind of. It's a little bit different, but at the same time, it's a little bit. So they're all like, so she's being attacked, and he's like, he's firing the gun. He's like, don't do anything. So then he turns, and he shoots his own brother, and he's just like completely devastated. And I totally get that. I totally get it. But he was protecting Ellie, who he didn't know was immune, and he's all like, Sam, Sam, and in the game, right? So I was looking up and I was listening to it was a thing up and down of this scene and then the game scene, right? And in the game, he points the gun at Joel and he's all like, and he says, it's all your fault. But in this show, he says, what did I do? And I was like, man, that is such a contrast and difference that I think that it's better on the show than it is in the game, because in the game, he's blaming them for what he did. But in this show, he's like, what did I do? And he did the right thing, even though it was hard. And it's really sad. And then he's looking at the blood from his brother, and he just can't take it because he's like looking at the blood and it's just coming out, and then he just ends himself because he can't take it. And I get that. I totally get it. There's a movie with what's the other Phoenix brother? And his kids all die, and he tries to end himself in that. And I'm just like, I totally get it, because like this was his person that was depending on him, and I'm pretty sure in that moment he felt that he failed. And so Ellie is just like, like she's devastated, and you know what, she should be, because you know what, I blame her. I blame Ellie. So then I know that's kind of harsh. I shouldn't blame them. So they dig them graves, and I'm glad they did this too, because even though Henry did a bad thing by turning in that dude, which I get, I kind of get why he did it. He's still, he was still a good person. Like, there's gray areas in this world, but I felt bad for him, that because Sam didn't do anything wrong, and that's another thing about that I like about this show, and probably the game, is that, and I like this about every show that does this. It's like, just because you're a good person doesn't mean bad things can't happen to you, and that's the real world. And I like when shows show that, like, you could be the best person and bad things can still happen to you. And I hate it when people have in shows that good things happen to good people and no bad things happen to bad people, and vice versa, and all around and everything. So then she puts down on the grave, she puts down his little thing. Hold on, let me get it so I can she's standing here looking, and because they were going to take them to Wyoming, and she puts down a thing, and hold on, let me see if I can get it. And it says, I'm sorry. And I'm like, you should be sorry, because, he was himself for only a couple of hours, and you, like true fashion, couldn't stay awake. You know what, Ellie? Yeah. And then she's like, come on, Joel, let's go. You coming or whatnot? And then Joel grabs his stuff, and then they walk away, and it just has them walking. And that's the end of the episode, you guys. And again, it was a solid episode. I enjoyed it, mostly for that action part at the end, because I do think that this show, episode 4, wasn't terrible. It was just a little disappointing. just because I think that when you have a show like this, it's like, yeah, I understand what you're trying to say with like, it's the end of the world. And this is not about zombies. This is about, you know, at the end of the world and humanity at the end of the world and how we treat each other and how we do things and yada, yada, yada. But at the same time, I go, if you want me to stick around for this crap, you need to give me a little bit. You know, there needs to be some push and pull here. Okay. I'm, you know, giving you need to give back kind of thing. I'm giving you my time. You need to give me my entertainment. I don't need a sob story every episode. And I'm going to say this, stop giving me characters that I actually like Frank and Bill and Sam and Henry, and then just getting rid of them. Like, don't get me wrong, I like Joel and Ellie, except Ellie kind of annoyed me this episode by falling asleep. I was kind of annoyed with her. That was not cool. I would have walked around and just, you know, because, you know, he's a little kid. Anyways, yeah, I like the characters. The characters are really good. This is a good. A small piece of me really wants to watch. I think I'll watch the cutscene movie after this show is done. You know, just to get a full view of stuff. All right, you guys, I'm gonna stop yapping because I've taken up way too much of your time, and I apologize for that. I just yeah, get my thoughts out there. But tell me, what did you guys think about this episode? You had to like. This was a banger episode. You had to like it. There's no way you couldn't like it, especially when those zombies popped out of that freaking hole. As soon as they did, like it was just quiet, and then boom, I was like, oh, and everything. So it was so good. It's so good. And then that little girl popped her head into the car. I was like, oh, run and everything. And yeah, there was just good stuff. All right, tell me what you guys thought about this. Go ahead and leave all your comments in that section down below. If you like this video, go and hit that like button. You know, I won't mind. If you're new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. I'd greatly appreciate it. And I will see you guys next week on The Last of Us Breakdown and Review. You guys have a good week. Bye.